What's up, friends? This is Manoj Papani. I welcome you all on behalf of the Edupedia world. I'll be starting my presentation with the first slide, and that will be the estimation of the free cash flows. What does this free cash flow mean? But before that, let's understand something about this cash flows. So, guys, first of all, estimation of this free cash flows is an extremely important kind of step for any kind of valuation process. The nature of cash flows that would be used in the calculations would certainly depend on the perspective of the investor who is doing those analysis. Free cash flows concept basically focuses on the cash generated from operations in excess of that which is needing for reinvestment and mandatory payments required to carry on any kind of business. So usually analysts frequently value firms based on the present value of their expected future free cash flows. If the firm is not expected to generate any kind of free cash flows in the future, it is unlikely to be valuable. Absolutely. Usually, a company generates its revenues by selling its products, services, while incurring many of the expenses, just like salaries, cost of goods sold, which is COGS. Apart from that, there are some of the selling and general administrative expenses. There are some research and development one too. So in order to produce the revenue, a firm not only incurs the operating expenses, but it also must invest money in various forms of other investments like real estates, building and equipments, and in working capital to support its business activities. Also, the company must pay taxes on its earnings. The amount of cash that's left over after all these payments, these mandatory investments, taxes, that final amount is basically known as the free cash flows to the firm. So, a free cash flow to the firm is basically defined as the cash flow available to the firm to all the suppliers of the capital once the firm pays all its operating expenses, including taxes and expenditures needed to sustain the firm's productive capacity. Okay, guys. So the expenditures usually include what is needed to purchase the fixed asset, working capital, such as inventory, and the firm's supplier of capital include the shareholders, bondholders, preferred shareholders, if the firm has preference share outstanding. So in that case. So usually this is the phenomenon for free cash flows of the firm. So if I'll have to talk about this cash flow, which represents the return to all the providers of the capital, whether it's debt, whether it's equity, whether it's preference. This can be used to pay off any kind of debt, repurchase of shares, pay dividends, or be retained for future growth opportunities. It is the hard cash that is available to pay the company's various claim holders, especially the shareholders. If we want to find out the free cash flows which are available entirely to the shareholders, we have to find out the free cash flows to equity. Okay, so we'll have to find out free cash flows for the firm. That will be like overall cash flow for the entire firm. Okay, and if after deducting all the expenses and all the expenditures relating to any kind of bondholders, preference shareholders, paying off their debt, so finally which is available to the final equity shareholders, that is basically called the free cash flow to equity. So a free cash flow to equity is basically defined as the cash flow available to the firm's shareholders once all the operating expenses like taxes and various others expenditures which are needed to sustain the firm's productive capacity and payments to or maybe receipt from any kind of debt holders are accounted for. So after all these things are usually paid, then the cash which is available, it is known as free cash flow for equity shareholders. The free cash flows for equity will be different in magnitude from dividends because free cash flows from equity is the amount available to be paid to the shareholders, whereas dividends are the amount actually paid out. Okay, guys. So any kind of retained earnings that we are doing for equity shareholders, so that is also being included in any kind of free cash flows for equity. Though in case of dividends are only the amount which is paid to the shareholders. Okay, so there is a difference between the two. So free cash flows for equity is a broader term. Dividend is a much smaller term as compared to that. Okay, perfect. So therefore, we can simply say that the free cash flows which are available to the firm represents the cash flows available to all the contributors of capital, whereas free cash flows to equity is what remains after the debt and preference shareholders have received their contractually obligated payments, which is namely interest and preference dividends, etc. So this is basically their kind of work. And therefore, we can say that the free cash flow valuation basically defines the value of the firm to be the present value of its expected future cash flows discounted at the company's cost of capital. That is called KE. Actually, this thing. So, this was the entire concept relating to free cash flows. So, free cash flow to the firm is basically defined as the cash flow available to all the firm's supplier of capital. That could be equity shareholders, bond holders, preference shareholders. Once the firm pays all the operating expenses and expenditures needed to sustain the firm's productive capacity. Free cash flows to equity is defined as a cash flow available to the firm's shareholders once all the operating expenditures needed to sustain the firm's productive capacity and payments to debt holders are already paid or accounted for. And finally, the free cash flow valuation. So what is this? So free cash flow valuation basically defines the value of the firm to be the present value of its expected future cash flows discounted at the company's cost of capital. Perfect, guys. So this was all relating to the concept of free cash flows. Free cash flows for the firm will include each and everything for each and every stakeholder. And free cash flows for equity will constitute only the ones which is available for the equity shareholders. And free cash flow valuation basically defines the value of the firm to be its present value of all the future cash flows that it will earn in future, discounted by the company's cost of capital. That is called KE. So that was all relating to this. And guys, there are two ways with which we can estimate the equity using the free cash flows. One, if free cash flow for the firm are discounted with a weighted average cost of capital. Okay, so we can get the value of the firm in such a case. The value of the firm's debt is then subtracted to calculate the equity value. However, there is some kind of problem here, and if free cash flows to equity are discounted with the relevant discount rate being the required rate of return on equity, we directly can estimate the equity value as well. So we can proceed to any kind of calculation relating to free cash flows for the firm and free cash flows for the equity. So we just need to adjust the financial statement flows so that we can get the better reflection of the cash flow available to all the investors in the firm. And it is actually easy to be remembered that a positive value would indicate that the firm has cash left after the expenses. A negative value, on the other hand, would simply indicate that the firm has not generated enough revenue to cover its cost and investment activities. So that's how they go on. And with this process, we can go for simply estimation of any kind of free cash flow, whether it is for firm or it is for any kind of equity holders. Perfect, guys. Let's move to our next segment, which will be the major adjustments to the net income. So guys, in order to go for any kind of option of obtaining this free cash flows for the firm, either for the firm or for the equity, we'll have to go for this option for major adjustments to the net income, because it's always said there are many of the adjustments which are like the ones which have been accounted for in the books of accounts. However, the same has not been really paid, or the same has not been really received in terms of cash, hardcore cash. Okay. So while going for any kind of free cash flows, we'll have to first go for those major adjustments. After then only we'll be able to evaluate or come to some certain conclusion that these are our free cash flows. And this is the income. Out of this is the major free cash flows. So that's extremely important. So you'll understand once I'll start out my presentation with this segment. So the first one is depreciation. So guys, perfect. Now you can relate to it. So depreciation is one such thing which decreases your net income because you treat depreciation as an expense. However, the same doesn't decrease any kind of cash flows for you, right? So depreciation is basically a non-cash kind of a nature of an item, right? So here you don't lose out on any kind of opportunity as far as cash is concerned. However, your net income do decreases as you charge depreciation as an expense. So depreciation expense being a non-cash charge and which is not actually incurred should be added back to the net income while calculating the free cash flow for the firm. Non-cash events on any kind of like working capital, that's the second kind of case. Non-cash events of any kind of working capital accounts also are required to be adjusted. Third, amortization of the intangibles. So guys, if the firm amortizes its intangibles, that expense should be added back to the net income to determine the free cash flows for the firm. If in case there is an amortization of the bond discount, okay, so when a firm amortizes a bond discount, that would also be added back. Okay. But however, guys, note one thing. If the amortization of bond premium is done, so this was bond discount. If in case the amortization of the bond premium is done, then that would be subtracted out. Okay. That will have to be remembered. The next one comes as a non-cash restructuring expense. So like if the firm records any kind of restructuring expense that is a non-cash event, then the same amount should be added back to the net income to determine the free cash flows for the firm. However, if the restructuring expense is meant to cover the future firm expenses, okay, then the forecast of future cash flows for the firm should be reduced by those amounts, if in case that is actually expected and meant to cover the future firm expenses. If the firm records the restructuring income, that is a non-cash event, okay, then the amount should be subtracted. So vice versa has to be done in that case, right? Perfect. Apart from that, there is one interest expense, right? So like we subtract interest expense when we calculate the net income, right guys, in order to book it as an expense. But this belongs to one of the firm's capital providers, which are debt holders, man. So it should be added back. In fact, we add back after tax interest expense. Logically, like finding the value of the firm using free cash flows for firm, we discount the free cash flows for the firm with WACC, that is weighted average cost of capital. And since the discount rate is after tax rate, the treatment of the cash flow should be similar. So that's the basic logic behind it, where we use this after tax cost of debt. Next comes as investment in fixed capital. Okay. So guys, investment in any kind of fixed capital is a cash outflow. Obviously, you will have to pay cash. Only then you'll be like able to invest in any kind of fixed asset. So investment in fixed capital is a cash outflow used to support the firm's current as well as future operations, which is mandatory and is therefore subtracted out. Any cash the firm receives from selling assets would be netted from the capital expenditures. If the firm let's say sells an asset that has a book value of 60,000 for rupees 1 lakh, then 40,000 will be recorded as the capital gain in the net income. This 40,000 amount is a non-cash and should be subtracted out. Note, however, in this case, that this particular 1 lakh is classified as a fixed capital investment and is thus a cash inflow. The capital loss would be added back with the cash sale proceed as an inflow to the fixed capital investment, and that will be done in such a cases. Okay. So before going for any kind of other investment, I'll just briefly share with you that we also require to subtract out the investments in working capital, where working capital is current asset, current liabilities, or it could be anything. Okay. So current asset minus current liabilities, excluding the cash and the notes payable and the current position of the long-term debt. So in such cases, guys, we also exclude cash because it is the amount we are trying to explain over here. Okay. But however, we haven't received it yet. We exclude notes payable and current portion of the long-term debt because these are the financing amounts, not operating kind of amounts. You don't generally get any kind of like long-term debt. Are you? No. So these notes payable and current portion of the long-term debt is basically a financing amount and not the operating amount. So these are actually not used to calculate the net income. So we don't use them to adjust any kind of net income to free cash flows for the firm. So that's how it's done. Apart from that, there are some of the other adjustments too, which is preferred dividends. So guys, if a firm has preferred dividend, preference shareholders, then we would add the preferred dividends to obtain the free cash flows for the firm, because preference holders are the ones who constitute into free cash flows for the firm. We are not talking about free cash flow for equity. While doing for equity, we'll have to subtract them. But in case we'll be calculating for free cash flows of the firm, entire firm, then it has to be added back, the preference dividend, because net income is net of preference dividend. Next comes as ESOP, employee stock options. So the exercise of employee stock options results in cash for the firm. However, any kind of analyst, it could be you or me, we should forecast the free cash flows of the firm per share on a basis that reflects the additional shares that will result from the option exercise. Deferred tax asset and liabilities. So changes in the deferred tax liabilities would be added back to the net income if the firm will be available and able to consistently defer taxes in the near future. If, however, deferred tax charge will reverse in the future, then this amount would not be added back. And likewise, we can simply say that sometimes a firm has tax assets as a result of the firm's recording charges, and that are not deductible for tax purposes. In this case, taxes on the financial statement are lower than the taxes which are actually paid, and the firm's records a tax asset. So, if the firm expects this to be a persistent kind of situation that will be recurring for each and every year, then the future net income should be adjusted downward. And if it is expected to reverse, then in such case, no adjustment needs to be made. Simple. So that's how it goes on for any kind of deferred tax asset and liability. I hope you got the entire clarity relating to any of the major adjustments which are required to be made to net income. Depreciation is one of them. Non-cash events, amortization of intangibles, amortization of bond discount, amortization of bond premiere, any kind of non-cash restructuring expense, any kind of interest expense, any kind of investment in the fixed capital, and various other adjustments like preferred dividends, ESOP, and deferred tax assets liabilities. Perfect, guys. So with this, I'll just move to my next topic, and that will be how about the ways to arrive at the free cash flows of the firm. So all this discussion was going on for obtaining and calculating the free cash flows for the firm. So now what are the ways with which we can simply arrive at those? What are those concepts? Let's understand those ways in order to understand this concept properly. So the first one comes as free cash flows to the firm is equivalent to the net income plus any kind of non-cash charges plus interest after tax minus any kind of net investment minus any kind of net change in the working capital. So this has to be taken care of in order to calculate the free cash flows for the firm. So guys, generally free cash flows for the firm, if like in a simple cases, there are not many preference shareholders available. So in the practical cases, there is a lack of preference share capital in any of the companies equity and reserves part. So generally the free cash flows for the firm is that amount of cash flow which is arrived usually by using profit after tax, promptly adding back depreciation into it, post-tax interest, and certainly subtracting any kind of net investments and working capital investments. So herein, that's the simple case. Net income, we discussed about the same in my last slide. We'll be adding to them all those non-cash charges which are actually not paid, but still these are the ones which are deducted in the net income. So we'll be adding them back. Also, we'll be adding back the interest, because free cash flows for the firm is basically a kind of measure which is calculated for all the stakeholders of the firm. That also include the debt holders. Remember guys, that is why we are adding back interest to it. Okay, though interest has been paid, but this is likely to be added back in order to obtain the figure for free cash flow for the entire firm. We'll be subtracting out of the same the net investment, whatever the net kind of investment has been made in terms of cash. So we'll be deducting from it. Also, we'll be subtracting the net change in working capital, which is paid into cash, which has been paid. So That's why it is being termed as this kind of concept. So, first of all, this is one of the concepts with which we can arrive at the free cash flows for the firm. Next comes as free cash flows for the firm equals to any kind of NOP. So what does this NOP mean, sir? NOP simply means net operating profits. So that is the point at which the income statement after this we simply subtract any kind of taxes, any kind of net investment which has been made, and we'll be like subtracting the net change in working capital. So these two constituents, in fact, these three are the same ones as the one which has been mentioned on the top. So only taxes are required to be subtracted from here because the same has been paid out in cash. So the company has actually decreased its liquidity by paying off the taxes. So net operating profits minus any kind of taxes which have been like paid in bank through bank or cash will be subtracting any kind of net investment, and we'll be subtracting any kind of net change in the working capital. So that's how it is being done. And we can simply go for this net operating profits option if the same is available in our question. We can simply subtract, because at this point of time net operating profits we have already like subtracted while coming to the point of net operating profits any kind of depreciation, interest and major taxes. So we have like already subtracted while calculating the net operating profits. So the same should not be repetitively subtracted again. So we should simply subtract only those taxes which have not been considered while calculating the NOP and any kind of net investment or any kind of working capital investments. So that has to be taken care of. The next way to arrive at this is cash flow from operations plus any kind of interest minus any kind of net investment. So that's another way to reach out to this. So free cash flows can like also be calculated using the statement of cash flows. In the calculation of cash flows, we usually account for the interest and taxes, but ignore the depreciation being a non-cash charge. Also, the working capital adjustments are like already being made over there, and hence we simply add back only the after-tax interest and subtract the net investment over here. So now you can like simply get an idea as to why this net change in working capital has not been subtracted from this, because it has already been accounted for in this. Also, depreciation has like already been excluded while calculating this. Okay, so taxes are already been taken care of in this. So we'll be like adding only interest over here and subtracting the net investment while going along together with the cash flow from operations. So that's how we'll be like able to calculate and obtain the figure for free cash flows for the firm. Okay guys, perfect. So these are the main three ways. There is another way which is known as free cash flows for equity. This is basically for the equity, wherein now you can understand this point, because free cash flows for the firm, in this we'll be like subtracting now, or in all the three others we added this. However, in this case we'll be subtracting it because we are actually obtaining the figure for free cash flows for just equity, not for the entire firm over here. So that's why we'll subtract the portion which is belonging to debt holders, that is interest, and we'll be like adding any kind of net borrowing over here. So now you guys must be thinking about this fact that why net borrowing has been like added over here rather than any kind of deduction. So guys, I'll make you understand this. So if any kind of company like borrows more in a year than it repays by that mean I simply make the mandatory kind of interest payments of debt. So if the company borrows more in a year than it repays, it will actually create an additional funds. Okay, it will have additional funds that solely belongs to the shareholders, which is why we are simply this net borrowing is added to the free cash flows of the firm in order to determine the free cash flow for equity, because we are increasing the cash flows. Let's suppose simply you are repaying the interest amount of like rupees 1 lakh per annum. Okay. However, you have taken additional funds from outside market, wherein you have already borrowed more. So you have additionally like acquired another loan for let's say rupees 3 lakh. So though my position as far as my loan payments will be like I'll have to book more expenses now because I'll have to pay more interest. However, as far as the cash liquidity is concerned, I've already like paid 1 lakh. However, I have received funds of 3 lakh, wherein this 2 lakh extra will be my increase in cash flows. So that is why it is being added over here, and this will be like solely dedicated to the equity shareholders. That is why the same has been included. So guys, these are some of the ways with which we can arrive at the free cash flows for the firm. So these are the 4 major ways. Okay, now let's understand this concept in a much better way with one of the examples that will help you in understanding this concept entirely. So assume there is that the following details are available for any kind of company. First of all, sales 10 lakh rupees, cost of goods sold 7 lakh 50,000, depreciation as 2 lakh, interest as 10,000, tax rate is basically 35%. That's the kind of average I have taken. And change in net working capital as rupees 10,000, change in capital spending as rupees 1 lakh, and finally the net borrowing as rupees 50,000. Now we are supposed to find out here the free cash flows for the firm and free cash flows for the equity. So let's head towards the solution for the same in order to understand this concept in a better manner. So guys, this is the tabular presentation that I have prepared this in order to exemplify this example to you. So first of all, in order to obtain the net income, that is called EBIT, we'll have to simply do the sales minus cost minus any kind of depreciation. So in this case, since the sales was rupees 1 lakh, cost was rupees 7 lakh 50,000 and depreciation was 2 lakh. So free cash flows for the firm as well as for the equity will lie at rupees 50,000 finally. In order to calculate the free cash flows for equity, we'll deduct the interest out of it because that is solely dedicating for the equity shareholders. Okay, but in case of free cash flows of firm, we won't go for subtracting the interest because we are calculating this for the firm's sake, and debt holders are also constituting the part of free cash flows for the firm. So in case of free cash flows for the firm, we'll get an EBT of same 50,000 rupees as like EBIT. Whereas in case of free cash flows for the equity, we'll get the EBIT as 40,000. Now, after this, we'll be like deducting the taxes. In case of 50,000, that was 35%. So after taxes, the PAT amounts to 32,500. Whereas in case of free cash flows for equity, the EBT was 40,000. After deducting the taxes at 35%, we get a figure of PAT as 26,000. Now, we'll have to add back the depreciation. Depreciation being a non-cash kind of expenditure. So we'll add back the depreciation in both free cash flows for firm and free cash flows for equity. That was rupees 2 lakh. We got the overall cash flow as 2,32,500 in case of free cash flows for firm, whereas in case of free cash flows for equity, we'll get the cash flow as 2,26,000. Now we'll be like deducting the net change in working capital. So that will be deducted over here. So out of the free cash flows for firm, that was 2,32,500, we'll be deducting 10,000 and 1 lakh rupees for the change in capital spending. With this, we'll get the free cash flows for the firm. That will be rupees 1,22,500. And in case of free cash flows for equity, we'll be deducting 10,000 in case of change in working capital and 1 lakh in case of change in capital spending. So we'll be getting an amount of plus we'll be like adding the net borrowing over here. Remember, I just narrated to you this basically net borrowing will be like impacting only the free cash flows for equity and not free cash flows for firm, because net borrowing will increase the share for equity shareholders after paying off any kind of related obligations for free cash flows of the firm. So the 50,000 will be added over here. So in this case, we'll get the free cash flows for equity amount as 1,66,000 for free cash flows for equity. The formula for the same is pretty simple. We'll be like using the PAT, that is profit after tax. We'll be adding the depreciation into it. We'll be getting the cash flows, and after that we'll be deducting the changes in working capital, changes in capital spending, and simply adding the net borrowing into it. So that's how that can be done. In case of free cash flows for firm, we'll simply use, there are two methods with which we can simply do it. So free cash flows for the firm minus any kind of interest plus the net borrowing, plus the interest minus net borrowing. So that will be the case with which we can simply go for the option of evaluating this 1,22,500. So this is particularly kind of example which is relating to the topic of free cash flows for firm, and free cash flows for equity. So I hope guys you got the entire clarity as to what this concept is and how it is like quite imperative to go for any kind of valuation process. So this has to be remembered for all, and these are the concepts which will be revolving around this topic. So with this, I'll be concluding my video with a dose of motivation, and that will be only I can change my life. No one can do it for me. So this quote was being mentioned by Carol Burnett. And this quote is very easy, guys. This is a kind of quote with which we all relate to in our respective lives each day. So there are some moments in your life when you just lie down on your bed, on your sofa, and just start thinking, okay, what can be done? What are those things which can be done in order to ensure that you guys succeed in your future? What are the plans with which you can make? This is the kind of thing. So we always think this thing that only we can change our respective lives, but we actually don't get into certain kind of action in order to achieve those dreams and desires. So absolutely, all of us know these things in our lives, and certainly we all know that only I can change my life, and no one can do it for me. So it has to be taken care of, right? So we are the pioneers of our lives. You are the creator of your own destiny. You'll have to make it happen. So go for it. Go for your best shot. Go for taking any kind of action. Don't fear. Don't hesitate. And just do it. That's how things will happen. With this, thank you on behalf of the Edupedia world. Keep interacting, guys, via questions, queries in the comment boxes of YouTube. Stay connected. That will help us in understanding your needs way better. God bless you all. Love you. Take care. Bye.